Well, the weather finally turned. It's quite crisp this morning. It's about 38, 39 degrees and the wind's blowing pretty good. I'm not quite used to the cold yet. I wouldn't actually call this cold. It gets much colder than this here. But it does feel chilly this morning, so I'm bundled up and I'm back at a spot. I haven't been at this spot in maybe a year or so. That's kind of what I tend to do. I'll find a good spot. Usually the gravel bars I hunt are absolutely massive. You know, they could be a better part of a mile long and a quarter mile wide sometimes. So I'll usually find a spot and just keep hunting it. Try to find a spot that's not actively being hunted by a lot of other people and just keep hunting it until it kind of peters out. And then I'll let that spot rest for a year or, maybe sometimes a couple years. Hunt some other spots and then eventually work my way back to it. There's a flake or something right there. Anyways, I haven't been at this spot in probably about a year. And the last spree that I went on here, maybe a year, might have even been 2 years ago, found an incredible amount of mammoth and mastodon bones. Found a mastodon, a large part of a pelvis, a tusk, a mastodon tooth, a mammoth tooth, several mammoth ribs. What else? Oh, a pretty good chunk of a mammoth skull. But on this one medium-sized bar, probably more mammoth and mastodon bones than I've ever found anywhere else. And just on the opposite side of the channel from where I'm at, years ago, a friend of mine and I found many, many mammoth and mastodon teeth. He found probably upwards of 20 mammoth teeth. I found quite a few as well. But anyways, this is a real hot spot for dead megafauna remains. Found a lot of really good points here as well. So we'll see. Nothing yet, but I'm just getting started. But it looks really good. Looks like the wind and the rain have really cleaned this spot up. So we'll see what happens. I've been at it for a long time this morning and I have not found a darn thing, and I just walked up on something really awesome. I've only found 2 of these ever, and oddly enough, those have been in the last year. But finally I got what looks like a really good example of one here. Oh yeah, that is beautiful. Packard complex or agate basin, whatever you want to call it, depending on where you're at. Like I said, I found 2 of these, both in the last year, and they're both good, but not this good. This is finally a really good example of one. Awesome. Okay, here it is cleaned up. Cleaned up quite nicely. It's a beautiful example. I have seen better from the stretch that I hunt. I have a friend that he found one about twice this size from this same spot that was amazing. But I'm still really happy with this. This is a really good example. Just got classic form, classic flaking for the type, good material. It's pretty much all there. And like I said, this will be called Packard Complex. And don't quote me on the dates, but I mean somewhere in the range of like 9,500 to 10,500 years old. Which is pretty incredible. Very cool find. There's one. There's number 2. Ooh. Oh, it's got a little ding on the base. I poked my finger at, you can see where I scratched the gravel there, right there with my hand. That kind of looks like it could be part of a bison skull. Kind of looks like the eye socket there. Could be a complete false alarm. But I'm going to dig it out and let's find out. Okay, it's definitely a skull. I don't know how good or how big, but you can see the skull's upside down. This is the bottom side. You can see the horn going down into the water. And that is the bottom of an eye socket, like I suspected. I wasn't sure. It could be, you know, it could have been a piece of a root ball of a tree or just a random piece of bone, but that's definitely an eye socket and a horn. So, boy, it's buried really deep in this big gravel, so it might take me a minute to get it out, but I'll let you see how it turns out. Well, there it is. I haven't even rinsed it out yet, but it's a beautiful skull cap. And a large one too. The bottom of both orbitals are there. Both horn tips are there. Just a really nice, it's a really nice skull cap. Sweet. Well, that made this trip worthwhile, and I'm really just kind of getting started, so. Okay, final cleanup on this bison skull. It's a super nice skull cap. Beautiful dark color. It's in pretty great shape. Man, that's awesome.